I am so glad that you're here today. I'm Tammy King. Thanks for tuning in to Pets Who Thrive Radio. Next on Pets Who Thrive Radio is my special guest and friend, Dr. Todd Cooney.
It's time for Pets Who Thrive Radio with Tammy King. Pets Who Thrive Radio covers all areas of animal health and well-being to help you raise and keep a healthy pet. Tammy is a certified animal naturopath with a passion for all animals and empowers pet owners with the latest tools and insight to ensure the healthiest version of your amazing pets. So, let's get into it.
I am so excited and honored that you're joining me on this journey. Today's guest is Dr. Todd Cooney. He is joining us again. And today's focus and topic is going to be on allergic skin and ears and homeopathy and how it can help relieve some of these pets that are struggling with some of these things. So welcome, Dr. Todd. I'm so glad you're here today.
Thank you. Good to be here with you, Tim.
Yeah. Okay, so when we look at the data, and I'm not sure what the numbers are, but I do know that one of the top reasons that pet parents take their pets to the vet is for allergies. So I wanted to see if you could maybe talk a little bit about just that in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have pretty good information because it comes out of some of the corporate practices like Banfield, and also from pet insurance companies, and they keep track of these things. So, yeah, the last several years, the number one and number two reasons dogs go to the vet are skin and ear problems. Usually, most of those are allergy related.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, and in the top 10 list, most of the problems have to do with the immune system.
Wow.
They're either autoimmune or allergy related. So.
Right.
So a lot of the reason animals go to the vet are because of problems with the immune system.
So what causes allergies? Because I think sorry to ask a question and then speak, but one of the things that comes to mind is I think that we assume that our dogs are allergic to their environment. They're allergic to every food. I hear it all the time. My dog is allergic to everything. And you think about these are canines that were designed to technically live outdoors. They're very close to the wolf in DNA. They should not be allergic to their environment and everything they eat. So what is it that's causing this imbalance and these allergy-like symptoms?
Yeah, good question. That's the question a lot of people have. Why is this happening? Why is my dog so allergic to everything? We try to do everything right. We hear that a lot. We're doing everything right. We still have allergies. Well, I think at the top of the list is vaccines. And I don't think it's an exaggeration because vaccines are the only thing that can really confuse the immune system in such a way as they do. I mean, they cause really extreme disruption. And then things like toxins, chemicals, and bad diets. And when you look at those four together, and you think about the people who say, well, we grew up on the farm and our dogs never went to the vet. They never had allergies and never had problems. Okay, well, they probably didn't get vaccinated. They probably weren't exposed to many toxins. They probably weren't exposed to many chemicals. They probably had a pretty good diet. So there you go. You've eliminated the four common causes of allergy right there.
Right.
So, yeah, it's just not their imagination, but dogs probably were healthier then.
I know. It's interesting how much I've actually asked several of my clients the same question. Did you ever have a dog growing up and he probably spent most of his day outside and probably was fed table scraps and lived to be a long 17 years without, sick the whole time. And people, a lot of times are like, yeah, that was like our family dog, and then the dog they have now, like you said, they're trying to do everything right. And I'm, air quotes, according to what conventional medicine is telling us is right, which is the annual vaccines and all the conventional flea and tick meds and the horribly highly processed food diets. And, so here's these people that are so confused. Why? I'm doing everything right. Why is my dog struggling so much? And when you step back and take a look at it, it makes sense. We're totally confusing the immune system, especially we've already given them vaccinations. And then here we go again with boosters.
Yeah, boosters, which are really unnecessary. I mean, totally unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't tell a lot of veterinarians that because they're in the habit of doing it. And that's how Grandpa did it. We've always done it this way and blah, blah, blah. So besides vaccines are harmless, I mean, that's their bottom line attitude. Right. The vaccines are harmless. And so even if they don't need them, it's not going to hurt anything. That's kind of the attitude, unfortunately. So. The pet parent trusts what they have to say. And of course, they get their dog vaccinated and revaccinated and doesn't understand why they're in the shape. So when you have a dog that is plagued with allergies, can you give us an idea of, say, like what would conventional treatment typically look like versus maybe how you would go about it or a more natural approach? Sure. Yeah. Well, conventional treatment, I still remember pretty well because I did it for a long time. And it's mainly made up of drugs which will block symptoms. Think of all the we call them the anti-drugs, the anti-inflammatory, anti-itch, antibiotic, antihistamine, all the things that are going to block the body's reaction to cause itching, mainly itching and infection. But so instead of that, with homeopathy, we try to go more to the root of the cause and beat the imbalance. So, and the way you can do that is looking at the symptoms. What are the symptoms that they're displaying before it was tampered with drugs? So it's good to get an idea of the original symptoms if possible. A lot of times that's not possible. And by the time I talk with someone about a dog, a lot of times they've been on a lot of medicine already. And so that distorts the picture and you can't really, you can still see a picture, but you can't see the original picture very well. So it makes remedy selection a little harder, which doesn't stop me from trying. You can still try and we're going to go with our best guess. And most times the remedies can make a big difference because they'll start to slowly help the body get back in balance, help the immune system start to work correctly again and not be so dysfunctional. And then hopefully we start seeing some improvement. It can really be one of the most stubborn things to deal with, though. It's pretty tough in a lot of cases. And so it takes a lot of patience, on the pet parent's part, it takes a lot of patience because it may not be an overnight success. But if it helps, it's usually a long-term or permanent improvement. So that's really nice when you get to that point.
Well, I can speak to my experience with that. It was, many years before I had even met you, I was working with Dr. Will Falconer, and I got a vaccine damaged border collie. And we visited quite often because there were so many layers to the onion, so to speak, that we had to kind of uncover. And it's like you uncover one and then a whole nother set of symptoms show up. And then you have to go to that layer. I will say that is when I 100% was a believer in homeopathy, even though I had seen a lot of little successes along the way. To see the change in this dog from before we started into having vitality and just, not being so, he had gotten aggressive from some of the vaccinations. He had gotten lame. I mean, there was just all sorts of things. And it was like he was back to himself. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever experienced.
Okay, so we need to take a quick break here. Hang on. We'll be right back. This is Pets Who Thrive Radio.
Pets Who Thrive Radio with Tammy King.
Pain doesn't have to be part of your pet's life. At GoGo Pets, we are a natural plant-based herbal solution for your pet's joint relief. Try our joint spray for targeted mobility, injury, and joint support, combined with our inflammatory relief shampoo to calm aches and pains. Gentle, effective, and safe for everyday use. GoGo Pets is a veterinarian recommended and endorsed brand, proudly made in the USA. Visit gogopets.com, where tradition meets innovation for the ultimate in pet care.
At Leader Dogs for the Blind, we believe in the power of independence and mobility. We're here to help those who need it most. Our services are provided free of charge to our clients because we believe that lack of funds should never stand in the way of living a fulfilling life. Picture this: guide dogs providing confidence and safety, orientation and mobility training reintroducing individuals to the world around them, and teens experiencing unforgettable adventures at our summer camp. It's all possible because of our generous supporters. We want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our individual donors, Lions Clubs, corporate partners, and foundations. With your help, we provide over 1 million days of independence each year. Together, we're changing lives and creating a world where everyone has the chance to lead an independent life. Join us on this incredible journey. Visit leaderdog.org today to learn how you can make a difference.
Tired of wasting advertising dollars? Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to results from the brand influencers. We've cracked the code with a precise advertising strategy that analyzes your sales cycles and sales curves. No more guessing games. We'll show you exactly how much to spend and when, so you can reach your target audience when they're most receptive. Visit thebrandinfluencers.com/offer for a free marketing evaluation today.
Welcome back to Pets Who Thrive Radio. I'm Tammy King.
Today's guest is Dr. Todd Cooney. Today's focus and topic is allergic skin and ears and homeopathy and how it can help relieve some of these pets that are struggling with some of these things. So talk a little bit about, because we were talking about how, for example, when you were practicing more as a conventional veterinarian, how you might give a cortisone shot and, yay, we've stopped the itch, but 3 months later, baby, here we go with something else. Talk a little bit about, if you could, suppressive medications.
Yeah, suppression in general is something that's really bad. I mean, it's a bad result, whether you're treating conventionally or with homeopathy, and you can suppress things with homeopathy. It's a little harder to do. With drugs, it's pretty easy because you just do a drug and you block the symptom. And it can make it seem like things are better, but, you've really not done the animal a favor because you suppress it. And so if you think of the illness as a force, and there's an energy to the illness, and the body's trying to work it to the outside. The body's trying to keep it away from the center, trying to keep it away from the core, because that's, where the vital organs are, the heart, the brain, the kidney, the liver. So its goal is to push things to the exterior. And that's why skin disease is so common, because the body's trying to put it out there. And so when you suppress that reaction, the disease is still there, but you can't see it anymore. It's not on the outside. It's trapped on the inside. And so that energy is going to go somewhere, and it ends up going into the other parts of the body. And, it sounds a little strange to talk about it that way because people aren't used to hearing that unless they've read about homeopathy and read some of these things. But when I first read it, it was a little hard to grasp, but it makes a lot of sense the more you think about it and the more you really look at how things are. A real good example is little kids with skin reactions, eczema, skin rashes. Mm-hmm. The first thing usually is done is they treat them with cortisone cream and make it go away. And then a few months later, the kid has asthma and they need an inhaler. A lot of little kids are walking around with inhalers in their backpack now at school because they have asthma, or they have peanut allergies, or they have something, irritable bowel. Something deeper because they suppressed the skin symptom and it's gone deeper. And But conventional medicine doesn't make that connection. They don't go, aha, he has asthma because we put cortisone on his.
Of course, because they've made something go away. So that's taken care of. Check that off. And now something else popped up, but there's no connection. Yeah.
Yeah. The connection there. And so, in veterinary practice, well, just like in human medicine, the trend has been to develop more potent drugs because the old ones, the prednisone and the cortisone and things that they've used for years, have bad side effects. So let's develop something that's a little more targeted and affects the immune system in a real profound way, but doesn't have as many side effects as cortisone, supposedly. But so we end up with things like Apoquel, and now Apoquel is the newer one, which used a lot. And these drugs are multi-billion-dollar drugs, probably, from these drug companies. And, the vets that prescribe them get a lot of income from that too. And I'm not saying that's all bad, but it's not the best way to deal with the problem. You're not gonna restore health to a dog by putting him on Apoquel. The immune system is still going to be messed up. The symptoms might seem better for a while, but over and over again, I hear from people who say, well, we did Apoquel for a little while and it worked for a while and then it quit working and things got worse, So that's a real common scenario.
Or then they may go to Cytopoint or
Cytopoint. Yeah.
Suppress.
Yeah. A lot of people will do Cytopoint or they'll do them at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a future, dog with another chronic illness that's most likely to pop up at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Will Falconer gave an article on the dark side of Apoquel. That was you can still find it on his blog, but
I've heard the same thing, whenever I meet with clients, we've tried steroids, we've tried Apoquel, we've tried Cytopoint, they all kind of worked for a little bit, but now it's terrible. And those are hard because again, those same clients are ones that are used to having them take a pill and seeing that immediate result. And sometimes that healing crisis or detoxification process is tough to go through. I mean, it just is. And we want to treat it with more suppressive drugs.
Yeah. It can be a rocky road sometimes, and people will end up bailing, decide just to go back to drugs again because they can't. They can't do it. And sometimes the dog can't do it. Sometimes the dog just can't respond and they don't have enough vital energy left. They're all spent,
Sure.
So it's kind of sad when that happens, but.
So talk a little bit about, if you could, like infection. I know we talk a lot about infection and all the bacteria, yeast, all that's on the skin. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's, the term infection a lot of times is not used accurately because most of the time you're dealing with an overgrowth of yeast or bacteria that are already present on the skin because we all, animals too, we all carry a lot of normal bacteria and yeast as part of our normal flora of our skin. And so when the skin gets inflamed though, and the environment of the skin gets upset, the ecology of it gets out of balance. And so the skin and the yeast and bacteria will tend to overgrow. And so really what you're dealing with is an overgrowth. And then the body a lot of times will mount an allergic response to that overgrowth. When I was in vet school, they called it bacterial hypersensitivity, which was a big mouthful to say that they're allergic to bacteria. Well, they're allergic to their own bacteria. And it's not that, some foreign bacteria have invaded the body and infected it. It's already there and it overgrew. So it goes back to the idea of the soil, the body being the soil and the bacteria and the yeast are the things that grow in the soil. And so if you take care of the soil, you won't have overgrowth problems. The soil it's like organic gardening. If they have really healthy soil, they're not going to have too much trouble with weeds and things like that growing. They're just going to have healthy crops and not too many bugs and things like that. So it's the same way. And there's a quote down there about the germ being nothing and the train is everything.
That's right.
And and that's what most homeopaths believe, which is contrary to the germ theory. The germ theory is kind of dominant in modern medicine today still, which is why everybody's all up in arms about things like COVID and looking for vaccines to solve all of our problems. But if you really believe the body, the terrain is more important, then work on fixing that, making the terrain more healthy and less resistant to disease. And a healthy body really is more resistant to infection, true infection, but it's also more resistant to overgrowth. You won't have those overgrowth problems because everything is in a better balanced state.
Okay, so we need to take a quick break here. But first, if you've missed any of today's program, you can catch all episodes at petswhothriveradio.com. That's petswhothriveradio.com. I'm Tammy King, and I'll be right back.
Is your pet slowing down or struggling with stiff joints, injury, or hip discomfort? GoGo Pets has your solution. Our fast-acting joint spray is crafted with natural plant-based herbal ingredients that help reduce inflammation to get your dog, cat, or horse moving again. Pair together with our gentle inflammatory relief shampoo to soothe sore muscles and discomfort for maintaining pet joint health to support long-term health needs. GoGo Pets is a veterinarian recommended and endorsed brand, proudly made in the USA. Visit gogopets.com, where tradition meets innovation for the ultimate in pet care.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. That's disgusting. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt.
Welcome back to Pets Who Thrive Radio. I'm Tammy King.
Today's guest is Dr. Todd Cooney. Today's focus and topic is allergic skin and ears, and homeopathy and how it can help relieve some of these pets that are struggling with some of these things. There's a quote that you have written in an article, and that is, I think it's fantastic because it says, allergies are not due to the allergen, but to the overactive, confused immune system. So allergen avoidance is not really the focus, but rather rebalancing the immune system. So it kind of goes back to what you were just talking about, the terrain, making sure that you're doing everything you can to support that immune system.
Yeah.
Rather than avoiding everything in the world.
Yeah. And it's really nice to get to that point because then you don't have to worry so much about trying to avoid everything that triggers your dog because they aren't being triggered as easily. So they can tolerate things a lot better. So whether it's a type of food or it's a pollen or grass or mold or flea bites or whatever, mosquito bites, whatever the trigger is, the normal immune system won't overreact to it like a confused one will.
Exactly. So if we could, maybe we can kind of go through and talk about some of the remedies that you like to use for some of these things that are related to the allergy-like symptoms. So maybe if we could start with, the itching. That itching is what really creates so much stress for the dog and the pet.
Yeah. Itching is horrible. Anybody who knows, has lived with an itchy dog knows that it's hard to just sit there and be relaxed if your dog is itching nonstop.
Right.
And it's hard for the dog to relax too. So it's a symptom that really gets your attention. It's not like the dog has high liver values or something and you can't really see that all the time, but with itching, you can't ignore it. So there are a lot of remedies under the category of itching in the references, and you can look up skin itch, and there are 42 remedies. If you look up skin itching, I'm not sure what the difference is, but there's 182 remedies. So a lot of remedies to choose from, but there's a few of them that we tend to focus in on for the main symptoms, the more common symptoms. Well, kind of in alphabetical order, under itch, there's Apis, which is the honeybee remedy. made from honeybees. And it's more for like hives and burning kinds of puffy itching with a lot of swelling. Definitely a dog that reacts to like mosquitoes or bee stings, things like that. Apis will really help. But it doesn't have to be from an insect bite or an insect sting. It can just be any kind of reaction. So dogs with food allergy reactions where their face swells up, a lot of times they'll respond well to Apis. So some people call it homeopathic Benadryl because it works so quick. Arsenicum is one we don't think of a lot for itching, but a lot of times it's a remedy I'll think of for a dog that's very restless, because restlessness is a key feature of arsenicum. And also, the skin looks normal. So these dogs are just tearing at themselves, but you look at the skin and it looks pretty normal. It's not red, hot spots. There might be a little bit of flaking, just a little bit of white flaking on the skin, but it overall looks pretty normal. So arsenicum might fit that situation. Next one is ledum, and ledum is a good remedy for itching due to flea or tick bites. And it can also help with arthritis, but it's a famous one for tick bites when people are worried about Lyme disease, which they shouldn't really worry about, but not for their dog anymore. But it can alleviate irritation from those kind of bites. So a dog that have real bad flea allergy or something, ledum might.
Good, yeah.
Rhus tox is a famous itchy remedy because it's made from poison ivy, and so the symptoms they can help with are symptoms of poison ivy. If you've ever had poison ivy, you know what that's like. So
yes.
If your dog is acting like looking like he has poison ivy rash, dogs don't really get poison ivy that much, but they are great at carrying it to people. So we used to have a dog that would run through the poison ivy and come up, and my boys would hug her, and they'd get poison ivy around their neck from hugging the dog. And
yes.
It was horrible. Yeah. But it's also a great arthritis remedy too, like ledum. So it's good for itching and arthritis. But silica is more of a chronic remedy, but it's good for recurrent skin infections, especially those that happen after vaccination. And a lot of trouble will start after the puppy shots, sometimes within a month or two, or sometimes without the puppy shots in the unfortunate puppies that inherit it from their parents. That's really having bad luck. You get vaccinosis without having vaccines.
Yeah, no kidding.
It does happen. Silica has a lot of persistent itching that's pretty intense. Usually they've got an excessive appetite too, kind of like sulfur. Sulfur is the same way, where they have a bottomless pit type appetite. It's a nice remedy to try because you can try it one time and then you don't really need to repeat it till you see an effect. If it's going to help, it'll help with one dose. And then, it brings us next to sulfur, which is really considered the biggest chronic disease remedy in homeopathy. So the skin with sulfur is kind of dry and itchy looking, and typically it's a skinny, lazy animal that looks messy, looks like they need a good grooming. Maybe they do need a good grooming, but they can look this way like the day after grooming. These dogs just tend to get that way. They just tend to get really untidy in a hurry, untidy appearance. They tend to have a lot of redness around their mouth and their eyes, their anus, places where the mucous membrane meets the skin. So, and they also, they tend to avoid heat. They want to be cool. They have a lot of hunger. They don't like bathing. Bathing makes things worse, which is probably why they don't like it.
Right.
So that's sulfur. And so the last three really, silica, sulfur, and dewey are three of the main ones I usually work with chronic allergies. So, because these will deal with a lot of the layers of the problem, and they may not totally fix it, but they'll help quite a bit. So dewey is really the key, that anti-vaccinosis remedy. And it's really indicated, especially if it's noticed, the problem that begins after vaccination.
Sure.
And occasionally we'll give dewey if other remedies don't seem to help. That's a good indication for dewey is you're using remedies that seem like they should help and they don't. And giving dewey might make things get better. So dogs tend to be warty. They tend to have a lot of little skin tags and skin growths and warts. And their hair growth is poor. Sometimes they've had a haircut and the hair's not growing back very well. Skin tends to get dark colored, even black in some cases. So, So those are really the major itching remedies. I mean, there are others, especially others, of course, but those are really good ones to keep in mind.
Yeah, no kidding. Those are great. So we have itching, and then we also have those nasty hot spots. What do you find are some of the things that work best for those?
Yeah, hot spots are awful, and sometimes they just show up so fast, and it can be so sore and painful for dogs. But sometimes dogs have to be sedated just to click and clean them because you can't touch them.
Right.
They hurt so bad. But so, yeah, using things, like witch hazel and green tea and aloe vera sometimes help topically. Green tea especially. I had someone tell me that a long time ago. They soak green tea bags, and once they're cool, they just lay them right on the hot spot. And that tends to help draw out some of the swelling. For a hot spot that's really swollen and it's kind of a red or a white color, to me, it almost reminds me of a strawberry, like when you're playing baseball and you slide hard and you tear the skin off and make a strawberry. That's what the Apis hot spot looks like. And it's very sensitive. If you think of a bee sting and how that feels, that's how the Apis hot spot probably feels. And Belladonna is good for hot spots too. These will usually come on real fast. They're hot, red, and painful. And one difference between that and Apis is Belladonna is usually thirsty and Apis is not thirsty. So that might be one of the only ways you could tell apart a Apis or a Belladonna hot spot.
Right.
Okay, so we need to take a quick break here. Hang on. We'll be right back. This is Pets Who Thrive Radio.
Pets Who Thrive Radio.
Your pet's joints work hard every day, so give them the support they need with bone and joint ointment from Go-Go Pets. Formulated with natural plant-based herbal ingredients, this soothing balm helps acute injuries of the joints and muscles, ease discomfort, reduce inflammation, and support mobility. Perfect for aging pets or active ones with injuries that need a little extra care. Go-Go Pets is a veterinarian recommended and endorsed brand, proudly made in the USA. Visit gogopets.com, where tradition meets innovation for the ultimate in pet care.
Tired of wasting advertising dollars? Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to results from the brand influencers. We've cracked the code with a precise advertising strategy that analyzes your sales cycles and sales curves. No more guessing games. We'll show you exactly how much to spend and when, so you can reach your target audience when they're most receptive. Visit thebrandinfluencers.com/offer for a free marketing evaluation today.
Welcome back to Pets Who Thrive Radio. I'm Tammy King.
Today's guest is Dr. Todd Cooney. Today's focus and topic is allergic skin and ears and homeopathy and how it can help relieve some of these pets that are struggling with some of these things. One of the other things that a lot of people listening and people out there deal with on a regular basis are chronic ear problems. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about what you found to be helpful when those ears just will not heal.
Yeah, ear problems are, they can be even more frustrating than skin problems because it seems like they sometimes aren't as quick to respond as skin problems, but it really is part of the skin organ when you think of it. The ear is covered with skin down into the ear canal. It's a little different, the ear canal, because has some secretion of wax and things, a little different than the skin. But yeah, with ears, if we're treating a dog with chronic allergies, a lot of times the ears are the last thing to clear up, which is pretty frustrating, especially if the skin clears up in a few months and then their ears take a year to clear up. That can be pretty annoying, but it has been known to happen. And the ears get a lot of potent drug combination dumped into them. There's a lot of prescription things out there that vets are using that have really potent steroids and antibiotics, antifungals, and things like that. So, but a healthy ear And again, it comes back to homeopathy and getting things in balance. If you get the body in balance, the ear really keeps itself clean. I mean, it's a self-cleaning organ. And one of the coolest things I ever found out was a few years ago, and I was reading about a guy who did a little study, and it was real simple, but he went down into the ear canal, and he put a tattoo dot on the side of the ear canal right next to the eardrum. And then over the next few weeks, he just watched the dot and looked in there to see what was happening. The dot moved up to the outside. It gradually moved all the way up to the outside of the ear canal.
Interesting.
And so his conclusion was that the skin of the ear canal regrows, regenerates from the eardrum and moves out, kind of in a flow of tissue. So it just constantly flows from the eardrum to the outside. Similar to the way the gut heals. The gut is constantly turning over and the skin's constantly turning over. We're constantly shedding skin cells and getting new skin cells. So the ear does that, but it does it in a linear way from bottom to top. And so that's one of the ways the ear keeps itself clean if it's working well. And so an ear that is getting clogged up with goo, it's overloading that mechanism, that self-cleaning. So when we treat ears, we want to use things that are not harsh enough to interfere with that process. So we end up using a lot of, just mild ear cleaners. Like we have one that has aloe vera, and we like that one a lot. And a lot of people will just use olive oil with a little calendula mixed in, a little calendula tincture, because it's soothing, and just olive oil. And sometimes that'll work wonders, especially if the ears are really waxy and have a lot of debris. The olive oil can help loosen that up. But the main thing is using remedies that are good for chronic ear trouble. And in some of the references, there's the old term was called catarrh, 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 ear catarrh, they called it. It just means ear discharge. And so there's in the repertoire I use, there's only about 15 remedies under that heading. So it's pretty easy to look through there and see. And the top ones really are pulsatilla, mercurius, and napura. Those are the three main remedies for chronic ear problems. And so there's a good chance, if your dog has chronic ear trouble, there's a good chance one of those might be helpful. You kind of have to look at the whole picture too, though. And
sure, because I'm sure like some dogs, it's more red and swollen, where the other one might have a lot of goopy discharge.
Yeah, it really depends on what that specific ear looks like. Yeah, because sometimes belladonna is a great ear remedy if it's red and hot, especially dogs that are like getting those hematomas. That belladonna can help take those down. If you catch it early enough, they can avoid surgery a lot of times. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so ear problems, it's good to remember that the ear problem is kind of a tip of the iceberg symptom for allergies. And ear problems are almost always related to allergies. I worked for an older vet once years ago, and he considered all ear problems to be related to food allergies. So he was kind of on the right track, but I don't think it's specific for food allergies.
Yeah.
You'll hear that once in a while, though. People will say, well, I know it's a food allergy because of his ear problems, and not necessarily. It is an allergy, though.
Yeah. That is super helpful, because I know that there are a lot of people out there very frustrated.
Yeah.
Because they just can't seem to get on top of those ear infections. But also I want to mention here, you mentioned the antis and the steroids and all of that. It can have the same effect, that you were talking about for their skin as it can for their ears. And I think people don't realize that you're putting all these suppressive drugs in their ears. And now, again, you have the potential of driving all that deeper into the body.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's possible to do that. And some of the ear medicines, especially, they don't have it so much anymore, but they used to use gentamicin quite a bit. And dogs could go into kidney disease from the gentamicin because they would absorb it through the ear, and it would hurt their kidneys because it's toxic to the kidney in high doses. So had these dogs that were getting this ear medicine all the time in their ear. Otomax is an example. That's an older one, but it had gentamicin in it. And it was used a lot. And a lot of dogs would develop kidney disease from their ear treatment. And that's a pretty bad trade.
No kidding.
Your ears clear up, but now you're in kidney failure. And so.
Wow. That's awful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not used much anymore probably because of that main side effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been so helpful. And I know a lot of people will probably be taking notes on some of the different remedies and which ones would be best to give for each situation. And I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom here, because again, this is such a universal problem with so many animals, and it's so unsettling whenever our pets are suffering in that way.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It really is. It's not a small thing. I read somewhere that Americans spend over $5 billion a year treating allergic skin problems in their dogs.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
That is
used to be a lot of money back when I was growing up.
Yeah, really. Wow. That is insane. Yeah.
And it's similar to the amount, they spend a lot on pet food too, but that's more of a necessity, pet food. But to spend that much on something that could be preventable.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, this is something that honestly man has created and perpetuated. So
yeah, it's definitely a man-made problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have the ability to deal with it. So
right. Yes. And if someone is having a situation where, you have a dog that is just miserable, out of control with their itching or hot spots or chronic ear infections, Dr. Todd is a great resource. And I will include his website if you wanted to see him and consult with him, because he can really kind of like I had with my dog when he was so vaccine damaged. We just peeled back the layers of the onion, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch him come out of that condition and have a new life. It's really great.
Yes, it definitely is. Well, thank you again. This has been so wonderful, as always. And and I know everyone, I'm sure, listening is thankful that you took the time to do this. So thank you again.
Well, that's going to do it for today's program. I want to say thank you to our great sponsors. Thank you to all the radio stations coast to coast for playing the show. And thank you to you for listening. I'm Tammy King, and this is Pets Who Thrive Radio.
Thanks for listening to Pets Who Thrive Radio with Tammy King. For more information about today's program, we're online at petswhothriveradio.com. And a podcast version is available as well. Simply search Pets Who Thrive Radio. Our YouTube, Facebook, Insta, and TikTok are all Pets Who Thrive Radio.